everyone, I'm Georgia and this is The Sound of Georgia. So if you watched last week's video, you know that I realised that the lyrics in Hamilton are a little different depending on where you look. I had gathered all the examples I could find by comparing Genius lyrics to The Revolution in Act 1 because it took forever. And now we're back for Act 2. As you can imagine, because the lyrics don't quite match up depending on where you look, that means they also don't quite match up on the album. With the album being, well, an album, it can't match up to both. Sometimes what I, at least hear on the recording, matches Genius, sometimes it matches The Revolution, sometimes it matches both. Check out Guns and Ships in the last video if you want to see more about that. And most of the time it's just a tiny little word like and. There's a lot of ands that really differentiates the lyrics. Kind of like the comma. Anyway, let's get started. So we're starting right at the beginning of the second act with What Did I Miss? According to The Revolution, Thomas Jefferson had only one bag when he got back from... where was he? France. Genius says bags, but I'm pretty sure The Revolution wins this point. Cabinet Battle number 1 is almost this act satisfied in terms of inconsistencies. It's got a ton. The first one is a little different in that I don't actually think it's an inconsistency per se. It's somebody screaming in the background and I don't really think it was meant to be part of the lyrics, if that makes any sense. So The Revolution doesn't mention it. But Genius does. I had never heard it until I went back and listened to it after seeing it on Genius. After Jefferson has his line about taxing the whiskey, there's somebody in the background that screams, "That's my alcohol." It's on Genius, it's not in The Revolution, and I honestly don't think it was meant to be. For all we know, it could have been improv, like David and France. Yeah, that was improv and it made it into the show. So it could have been something completely spontaneous and ended up on Genius because it's on the album. That doesn't sound all that impossible, and we'll get back to that later. Either way, it's hilarious. Next up is a line in Hamilton's response, and it's all to do with dying in the trench. Genius has the, Revolution has a. I hear the, so I'm going with Genius. Speaking of what I hear, Genius and The Revolution agree on this one, but my ears beg to differ. So this very well could be just me, but I wanted to bring it up anyway. Both list Washington's line as "we'll reconvene after a brief recess." But I swear I hear we're gonna reconvene after a brief recess. What do you hear? Please tell me. Not done with this one yet though. The Revolution wins the next one. There's clearly a well before James Madison won't talk to me. That's a non-starter. Genius doesn't have that. However, neither of them have the and that I can very clearly hear when Hamilton goes, "What happens if I don't get congressional approval?" I hear an and before that. Neither of them have that. So this is another situation where my ears are the odd ones out. But I don't think this line's as easy to miss here as the one I mentioned earlier. And we see that a bit again in the next song. Take a Break has an and there in the middle of Alexander's line about Macbeth. That's according to Genius. Revolution has, "They think me Macbeth, ambition is my folly, I'm a polymath, a pain in the ass, a massive pain." Revolution wins that point as far as I'm concerned. According to Genius, there's also an and before "he's been practicing all day." There's not. So Revolution also wins that one. So next up is a tiny, tiny little detail in Say No to This. The Revolution has the line written as "you've never seen a bastard orphan more in need of a break." Genius has "you never seen a bastard orphan more in need of a break." I think this one also goes to The Revolution. No difference in room where it happens, but this is what the Cabinet Battle reminded me of. After the Congress is fighting over where to put the capital, there's a whole bunch of screaming, and it even says in both The Revolution and on Genius that it's just screaming in chaos. So it's clearly not meant to be anything specific. Lin's notes in the book said he wanted the cast to scream out any city in the original 13 colonies, but that they just end up screaming whatever. So who knows where they want the capital. I really need to get a bigger SD card. Sorry if the angle looks different, that's why. Anyway, we're back. Skylar Defeated has grandpa spelled differently depending on which one you look at, but as far as hearing goes, that doesn't really make all that much difference. Revolution has a and before Scarlety was up for grabs, so I took it. I always heard it as the, not and, but there's something there, so point goes to the Revolution. Cabinet Battle 2 also has an and. According to Genius, it's and do we provide aid and troops to our French allies, or do we stay out of it? Revolution cuts the and I think the point goes to Genius. However, the next instance has both of them. Genius also wins the next one with a hey before, and if you're down now, now you know. But it also misses one of the enoughs in Washington's line. There's clearly two, so that point goes to the Revolution. The Revolution has an ooh at the beginning of Reynolds' pamphlet, which is barely audible over everything else, but I think it's in there. Genius has a well at the beginning of Jefferson's second. He's never going to be president now. So I think those two lines make it 1 point to each of them for Reynolds' pamphlet. Revolution also has a did before. You ever seen somebody ruin their own life? Genius doesn't, but honestly, I am not sure which one's right. The next three are really similar in that it's almost impossible to work out which one it actually is because of the way they're singing. The way they're singing, it really could be either. So I guess that means they're all null and void, but we're going to talk about them anyway. Revolution has the line in Burn as, "You'll sleep in your office instead." Genius has, "You sleep in your office instead." Did that sound any different? The next example is in World Was Wide Enough. In Hamilton's life flashes before his eyes monologue thing, he says, "Is this how you'll remember me?" Or does he say, "Is this how you remember me?" Seriously, I'm not sure. And the final two are from Who Lives, Who Dies, Who Tells Your Story. The next one is the final one of I'm really not sure which one's right, and that is Angelica's line of, "Every other founding father story gets told. Every other founding father gets to grow old." Revolution has it listed as founding father. Genius has it as founding fathers. And as I said, it's really, really hard. I sing this one to myself a lot, and I sing founding father, no S. But even when I do, it almost sounds like I'm saying the S. We may never know. Two more left, I think I miscounted. Genius has the line as, "But when you're gone, who remembers your name? Who keeps your flame? Who tells your story?" Revolution has, "And when you're gone, who remembers your name? Who keeps your flame? Who tells your story?" I'm gonna give this one to Genius, but if you haven't heard the off-Broadway version of Who Lives, Who Dies, Who Tells Your Story, link in the down below, that one definitely says and. And the final inconsistent line is about the orphanage. Genius has it in past tense, the Revolution has it in present. Given everything else in the stanza on both is in present tense, I'm giving this one to the Revolution. Who lives, who dies, who tells your story? The cut bit from Adam's administration does not count. It's in the Revolution, but it's also very clearly marked as being cut. I'll leave a link to Lynn doing that in the down below because it's hilarious. So as far as I can tell, the Revolution actually wins this time around, where it's in Act 1. I think Genius won. It still doesn't really shine any more light as to why there are differences, though I guess in a sense it kind of evens it out. Genius got closer in Act 1, Revolution got closer in Act 2. Maybe all that means is that the real lyrics are Genius in Act 1 and Revolution for Act 2. I don't know. I want to believe the Revolution is right, but my ears kind of betray me. More than that, I think I honestly want to believe that one of them is right, whether it be Genius or the Revolution. I prefer the Revolution, but between my ears, the Revolution, and the website, I'm not sure what it is anymore. In fact, doing this whole video made me realise how much I don't know the words. Putting aside the differences, I think there are things that I've muddled and missed and things like that. Well, we're at the end of the show, so that's all I've got for you in this video. Let me know in the comments, what do you hear? Which do you think is real? I really don't know why the lyrics would be different from what's documented as official, aka the Revolution, whether that be online or on the actual album. Thoughts? But again, what do you hear? And what do you think's real? Feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my video next week. So long, farewell!